Thank you so much for that. So we've talked about risk assessments, we've talked about analytics, but what actually happens when you have a bit of a breach, right? And oftentimes just the word breach makes us panic, and just the thought of having a breach. So we're going to welcome Satyavati Devadari from Wells Fargo to share her thoughts on data breaches.
Good morning, everyone. So before I start, I just have a disclaimer to say. I am from Wells Fargo. I am Vice President of Information Security Risk Management. But today, I am going to present my session in my own opinions. It's not, I'm not representing Wells Fargo today. I'm presenting my own experience based on the publicly available information and the facts posted in multiple portals. Yeah? With that being said, let's start the session today. So data breaches, that's our nightmare, right? Each bank's nightmare. So that's what we are going to see today. What's that we are going to cover today is about what is the data breach impact of 2017. You have seen a lot of data breaches happening, and you see multiple trends presented by fellow colleagues earlier. So I'm going to present a quick summary of how that impacted 2017 and future. And also a couple of case studies, how the data breach happened. I'm going to concentrate more on the root cause rather than the what, right? And then, interesting thing is, what happens to this big data, right? You've seen millions and billions of data going somewhere. What happens? Where it goes? That's the one which we see in the third one. And then finally, what if that leaked information is in the hands of the robber and he goes and takes the money from the bank directly? What happens then? So that's the case study. So these are the things which I'm going to cover and then close it with question and answers. Hope that works for you. Right? Thank you. So the first part is about the data breaches of 2017. Most of you are aware that 2017 you've seen a lot of data breaches and cyber attacks. The World Economic Forum in January 2018 declared that cybersecurity risk is third among the total global risks based on the likelihood, right? Followed by the data fraud and risk. This is the reason why they have come up with such kind of analysis. The first 6 months of 2017, the entire number of data breaches happened in first half of 2017 constitutes the total number of data breaches happened in 2016. Huge number, right? So let's quickly see and summarize how 2017 looks like. We have seen billions of records being stolen. What kind of information we lost, or we have seen being lost, right? There is a personal information, there is a health information, there is a hotel stay information, like you guys are staying in Haptur and somebody knows that you stayed in Haptur, Grand Resort for 2 days, for these days, and you are accompanied with somebody, something like that, as well was stolen, right? That's the majority of the information. You've also seen patient records being stolen, we've seen drivers' information being stolen, and users' movements, right, across the city was also stolen. So, what was the reason, right? If you kind of summarize what kind of incidents happened, most of them are connected to vulnerabilities, right? I think most of our colleagues have spoken about. You see it very visible, right? This majority of them are related to vulnerability exposure, followed by accidental uploads. And also some of the speakers have spoken about authentication issues. That's another one. And misconfiguration, errors in configuring the system leading to a data breach. Those are the type of incidents. I'm not going into each case, but most of you know these incidents happening in 2017. Let's see. I don't think any data breach case study or a presentation can go without taking the name of Equifax. Because it is the biggest data breach happened in the century in finance industry. It moved sort of US, UK and Argentina citizens, personal sensitive information. What went wrong is actually that the social security numbers, date of birth, driver license number, home address and personal details were exposed. And one thing is CEO, CIO and head of security retired early. I don't want to call them, they are fired, but they just retired early. And stock price dropped by 35%. Let's see what went wrong, what was the cause of this. You know the earthquake, right? So 10 is the highest Richter scale and 1 is the lowest. So Apache vulnerability, Apache Struts vulnerability was quoted as 10 in the CVE score. What does it mean is, you have a vulnerability which is coming and hitting you with level 10, which means you need to quickly act and respond. However, the time to remediate is not as quick, because whenever you are doing any patching, it's not like just go and fix a patch. You need to understand which application is connected to what and what are the other configuration elements. Unless you know that, you will not be able to remediate this vulnerability. That's the complexity of this vulnerability, and somehow Equifax was not able to fix it within the time. The vulnerability was released on March, and till August they were not able to do anything, and they were able to find out in August, and in September they disclosed that they lost the data and it was exposed. Right? And one more thing is, as I said, there is a vulnerability visible in the March month. However, they figured it out only in August. There's a lot of time in figuring out that the data breach is happening in-house, which indicates maybe there is a lack of improper intrusion detection systems. Right? Anything unique in this? I just like to know what is unique in this is chaos, what they created in crisis management. Most of you might have read about this or not, but the key thing is, whenever you lost information as a customer, you have to go and check, have I lost my credit card number? Am I impacted? You want to check, right? So you require a help desk portal. So they have created a help desk portal in Argentina. Do you know what the username password is? Can you guess? Okay, maybe some of you already guessed it. The username and password is admin. Okay, so very funny. So that resulted in 100K Argentina citizens as well, along with UK and US. That's the way they handle the crisis management. Another important thing in the crisis management is, during the crisis scenario, you expect leaders to be standing there and supporting the organization. Here, when in August, then whenever this data breach was known to the leadership, the leaders sold their shares. That's not the example anybody can follow, right? That's a unique case of Equifax. Let's move on to Europe, right? UniCredit data breach is biggest data breach in Europe, mainly in finance industry. So what happened to UniCredit? There was 400K biographical and loan information was stolen or visible outside the public. The company lost value quickly when people realized that the data is already available on the public. Right? And when this was exposed, even that's the time the GDPR is being discussed and fines are imposed on any European country which is not protecting the data sufficiently in the right manner. Right? So what was the data exposed? See, whenever you are taking a loan, you have to fill a document. It will have personal data, what is the mortgage, and where is it located, all those information. The entire information, whatever you sign on, the collateral, is leaked. Right? How it got leaked? So what they declared, the company, the UniCredit declared was intruders gained access to the third party or the contractor's side, and then the data was exposed. The blame was on the third party, but the accountable party is here, is Unique Data as a bank. Yep. Anything unique here? It took only 10 months for them to realize. Okay, so next case is another one. So in the previous case we observed in the third party where the data is being stolen and you realize after 10 months, you might decide, okay, I don't want to go with this vendor, I go with a different vendor. You stop the contract and go with it. There is a possibility. What if a regulator to whom you have to connect to is infecting your systems? See the next case. Polish Financial Supervisory Authority, right? That is a classic case, and maybe many of you already triggered the story. I will tell you. So what happened was, a funny mail came to a Polish Financial Supervisory Authority, like a phishing mail, and then in that there is a malware, and then that malware which is sitting in the regulatory system passed through the connected banks and then infected that bank system as well as the desktops connected to that banks, impacting 20 banks in Poland who reported. Others also reported saying, yeah, it happened with me also. So what we are trying to say there is a possibility of such malware happening either to any of your connected parties. It could be third party, it could be a regulatory agency or any other contractor working outside of your campus, right? What was exposed? No announcement came. What was the impact? Everybody said there is something, and if you go and check Polish Financial Supervisory Authority and then the leakage related to the malware, then you will see that there is no number mentioned, but we know that there is significant data might have been exposed. So what went wrong or anything unique? Anything unique here is the regulator servers imposing malware on you rather than sanctions. And then again, what else was that? It took 6 months for them to realize there was a leak happening. Yeah. So now let's go quickly on. We have seen the cases where the data is getting leaked. There are ways and mechanisms through which the data is being breached and moving somewhere. Where is it going? We heard already darknet, right? So what we see on web is on the surface. What is visible through Google and Bing and others is 4% of the entire web traffic. 96% is not visible to you. That's called deep web. In the deep web, or the deepest of the deep web is called darknet. That is where Tor, political protection and drug trafficking and this malware gets sold. What is available there for sale? Like our souks here. What is available? You can buy, attackers can buy credit card numbers, SSN numbers, fake passports, fake coupons, and then they can also publish their own certificates and drugs and many more. Unbelievably, I read something very interesting that you can even buy spirits of lost children. And there are books on immortality, how to become immortal. Very interesting things. Okay, so imagine we are just speaking about banking here. Let's take an example of you want to buy a credit card information, or let's consider attacker want to buy credit card. Not one, right? They want bulk, right? What are the choices the attacker have? The attacker have multiple choices. They can choose Visa card, they can MasterCard, they can choose American Express card, or anything else. Choices are available. And then they can also choose whether they want European card, or APAC card, UAE card, or Asian card, right? And they can also choose state if they want, which state I want to go and target. Not Virginia or Atlanta, whatever, the state within the US as well. And like any souk, right? Whenever you are buying a diamond, you look for clarity. The cost of the diamond increases when the clarity goes high, right? Same way, when the attacker is buying a credit card information, when more information added to get it clear, the clarity improves the cost of credit card. How? Let's see. As of now, the attacker has only 100 number of card numbers. That has maybe few pennies. And then add up expiry date. It adds few pennies more. Add up CVV number, few pennies more. Add up PIN, dollars more. And then additionally, for example, we got that address information, right? Date of birth, address, all those details adds up. Then it will not be any more in pennies, it will be in dollars. The average rate of the card is, goes anywhere between a few pennies to $60, depending upon the region and type of attack. And then, as the way there are sellers and there are buyers, there are validators too. They say that I'm here to tell you whether this is genuine or not genuine. You pay for a service saying that these cards are genuine or not genuine. So attackers also do due diligence by validating their own cards what they are buying. Okay? What is the security transaction? They're spending millions of money, right? Buy that cards. What is the security? This is the best security attackers get, much better than any of the customers or us. What they get? Anybody who has to access the darknet can only access through secure VPN connection, which is not visible from outside. People have to access through proxies. That proxy anonymizes your IP and gives you whatever the network you want. You want your IP address to look like you are from Argentina, it will look like Argentina. You want that to be looked as US, it will look like that. You're getting what I mean, right? And then money transactions, whatever they are selling and buying, is not visible to government. It's not visible to ISPs. It's not visible to any of the third parties. Nobody can see that transaction happening. What else is needed for security? And third one, individual's identity is kept secret. That's the security the darknet gives. With that kind of security, the attackers can buy the data as usual. Let's see a case where, consider a case when this leaked data lands into a group of motivated attackers who want to rob a bank. There is a case there too. So there is a case of Standard Chartered Bank. Most of you know Standard Chartered is a UK-based bank, right? So how it happened? The case is not what you can say fabricated. The case is available on study. I'm just putting the steps in order so that we understand. So they might have acquired credit cards, and you know what they acquired? They didn't acquire the bank cards of UK. They purchased the unique credit cards of South Africa. South Africa cards, right? And they also paid for validation that the numbers are valid. So once they have valid credit cards, they went ahead and printed the fake cards. Once they have fake cards, what they need to identify where to go and target to. You know, the bank has a system which tests which country is high risk and which country is low risk. And accordingly, there is a fraud analytics which happen and they trigger the alert. For example, you are moving, today you are in UAE, yesterday you are in London. They might not raise alert because you keep traveling in UAE. But you travel to a different place, completely different, then they raise alert. But however, that country is secure enough or equally secure like the country here, then they may or may not raise the alert. Consider a scenario that way. Japan is considered to be a low-risk country because it doesn't allow any foreign transaction. Only 2 banks allow financial or foreign transactions. One of them is 7 Bank. It operates 7-11 provisional stores in their in Japan across, and in the provisional stores there are ATMs through which you can use your foreign cards. Nowhere else you can use your foreign card. If you are a foreigner, only way to get it is through this ATM, right? So they identified a low risk target country. So they know they have the card, they have the country. So what they need to do, they need to find a time, exact timing, right? So they found a time on a Sunday morning, which is actually a Saturday evening for UK citizens, because because the country is operating in UK, and then the cards are from South Africa, which is again Saturday evening for South Africa, and they go to Japan. 100 people fly to target country, and they do 14,000 transactions in 3 hours early in the morning, 7 to 10 on Sunday. They sold 1.4 million N, which is equivalent to 13 million. Monday, the CEO of South African branch of Standard Chartered declares that they are at loss of 300 million rand, which is equal to $19 million. And they also declared, saying that this is a loss to the bank. It is not going to impact customer. We are going to take care of it. Right? In this case, it may look like the issuing bank is owning it and handling it. But there are cases, in this case itself, maybe there are chances that the handling country as well as the handling bank also has to pay their own penalties. So this is a complete story of what might happen in case it lands into the wrong place and they place it in the better. So that's how the story ends, and then we move on to the summary, right? What did we learn from this, right? I think many of the speakers here spoke, follow the basics. That is, we have seen the key things, what we observed is it's based on vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities were exposed, authenticity was not properly handled, or it could be because of the malware which came into the bank. Those are just basics we need to follow. Right? And second is security in design. What do you mean by security in design? When we are buying a new product, new platform, and we are acquiring anything, you have to plan your security controls in the design. Security is no more an oversight job. Like you will go later and see, okay, it happened or not happened. No. We need to plan security controls in the business design, platform design, and application design. That is the way we have to work in future. We have already started to continue that. Something like car will not come out of the factory unless there is a seat belt and there is a safety mechanisms inside, right? Same way, I think the product should not go out to the market. Whether it's the application, it shouldn't go to the production unless security controls are in the design. Third, data owner is accountable, as we've seen already. No matter whether it is a third party, whether it is a regulated body, or whether it is a contractor, whoever is responsible to handle the data, at the end of the day, the data owner is the accountable party and have to go on responsibility to ensure the controls are kept in right places, they are monitored, they are handled well, and also responded timely manner. So this one, right? Attacker is always 2 steps ahead. Regulatory bodies and the rules comes only after the technology comes, which means technology is ahead of regulations and attacker is ahead of any cyber security. I think that's the truth which we have to live with. What we can do is, I think we also need to collaborate and understand what's happening in the other bank and this bank, industry level, as well as we need to also improve our awareness within the organization as well as the top leaders. That's my last one. Awareness solves the problem. So my other speaker also spoke, and we have, I think we remember the Ferrari very well because we are in Abu Dhabi and the key thing, right? So unless the right people are handling right things, that's a point one. And second is, unless the culture is security aware, you will not be able to solve such problem, right? The people might have walked in and then might have taken away, but nobody have even bothered, right? Everybody should be security aware, and then awareness is the one which will solve off the problem, right? So with that, I close this my talk and I'm ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sasavali. So we're going to break for coffee now. I know it's 30 minutes, but we're a little behind schedule, so we'll try to keep it for 15. And then after we come back, we'll hear Alexander talk about the next generation of digital. Thank you.